Benny 5 cards away from doubling up Elliot, and more importantly, Elliot would have position on Benny and really get to play the role of table captain should he hold here with the pocket kings. Talk about career-defining hand being played out right now. Watching all the short stacks. Sweat this one on the side. 10, 7, 5. So far, so good.
I don't think so.
For Elliot's pocket kings.
I think so. You do?
Backdoor Broadway. Always a potential for Benny. Good news is Benny can't be dead on any turn.
10.
10 of diamonds changes nothing. Elliot 1 card away from being the WPT World Championship chip leader with 6 left. And he is gonna hold with the kings. His rail goes insane, Kevin. How about that? There's got to be some 5 balls out there. There's got to be some 1-ball sweats. Benny with the open jam. 1,960 entries played down to the final 6 players. And I tell you what, it wasn't easy. It took more than 7 hours after the elimination of Rami Awera in 10th place to reach the final 6. It was Lucas Foster that was eliminated in 7th place around 6 a.m. So late night, I expect a lot of sleep for these guys yesterday, although with the adrenaline rushing through their blood until 6, 7 a.m. Catching up with friends, family to let them know that they had made the final table. Maybe they didn't get much sleep yesterday, Kevin.
It's definitely, it's a stressful experience to have that much attention on you. And not only that, but to probably have played 5 or 6 days consecutive leading up to that day that you're describing, right? I mean, they would have gone into that day already totally fatigued. And yeah, I think we're going to see Elliot do something here. He goes with just a call.
Oh, Frank Finaro waking up with ace 10-0 in the big blind. Sub 10.
All in.
Is gonna move his final 15.5 million in the middle. This is just an absolute disaster for Benny.
Yeah, Benny correctly assessing here that when Elliot calls here in the small blind, he's still got plenty of very strong hands in his range. King 9 suited on the lower end for sure, and he's going to have to think about this math problem for a little bit. But Benny was by no means in a spot there where he could, you know, take his price and try and enter that pot light. He has to respect Elliot's range here for sure.
Also has to respect the range of Frank in the big blind as well, moving all in against the button open and small blind flat of Elliot. Is there like a world where Frank kind of works as an aid for Elliot? Elliot kind of wants to keep these shorter stacks around for as long as possible so he can continue to just abuse the ICM situation between himself and Benny, who's currently 2nd in chips.
I think that that's more relevant in situations where we're not dealing with 3 or 4 other short stacks already at the table. Pretty much no matter what happens in this hand, like Elliot, not only does he have a math problem, he has this kind of future game problem to dissect, right? If I win this pot, what's the stack distribution I'm creating? If I lose this pot, what's the stack distribution I'm creating? And if that losing scenario was really detrimental, then yeah, you'd certainly have a case. But he would just be in a spot where Frank's got about 20, 22 big blinds. Everyone else is still pretty short. It's a fine spot for him, and he does end up calling for that reason, I guess.
He's come to the conclusion that the math says yes, Kevin. Makes the call with the king 9 of clubs, and we can see 60-40 for Frank Finaro's tournament life. Came into this final table 5 of 6. So I do apologize, 4 of 6. Just 13 bigs. Everyone else going to sweat this one for a potential 300K ladder. Wow. 5-3 deuce, all spades. Frank with the ace of spades in hand. Taking away a third of Elliot's outs. drawing to 4 outs twice. Six of hearts on the turn. Changes nothing. Frank still with the best of it. It's never easy, is it, Kevin? Always a sweat going into the biggest river card of Frank Fanaro's career. 7 of diamonds rolling off, and Frank with the full double.
15-5.
Not only does he get the full double, Kevin, that has got to be one of the rowdiest rails I've heard in a long time. That's big.
I'm just going to see Elliott has already opened the pot and Frank is folding. Or you're going to see that one scenario where Frank's dealt in under the gun and he's got to worry, oh, I'm opening into the chip leader if I play this hand. And he's probably just going to open fold a whole lot of hands. So I don't think we're going to see too much of Frank going post flop unless he starts getting hit with the deck.
WPT ambassador Andrew Nemi in the chat saying that Frank shouldn't have folded the sixes because he would have flopped top set. You're right, Andrew. Shout out to all the WPT ambassadors for all the giveaways held for this event.
In a close spot here, this is a blind versus blind confrontation. 10 million, certainly a lot of chips, but Benny understands that with a big blind ante out there, what is that, about 6.5 big blinds all in, blind versus blind, this Jack-9 could be good, or at least good enough to be worth calling.
Yeah, he says good luck, so cards on their backs. Third all-in of this final table. It's another 60-40. Colton looking to convert the same way that Frank Fanaro did just moments ago to get back up to 15 bigs. Benny loses this, by the way. It's going to be down to less than 30 big blinds. And well, King, 7, Trey. Running spades for Benny, an option, as well as running straight cards. Colton could turn him dead. Ace of hearts, ace of clubs turn.
6 of spades.
Never easy, Kevin. Benny picking up a lot of outs on that 6 of spades turn. Jack, 9 or a spade needed for Benny to convert. It's a ladder 300k. Colton just looking to hold here. And he doesn't. 10 of spades on the river. And we lose
So much fun.
Colton Blomberg in 6th place. I tell you what, Kevin, it's going to sting for a while, but after the dust has settled.
I'm just priced in with my good hand, and let's run it. So he finds a good fold there. Now JC first in, picking up a huge hand. I don't know if we're going to see him choose something other than all in. He does have the option. But he does just rip. Some players like to choose to leave a few chips behind, just in case there's like multiple all-ins ahead.
11.
And for what looks like about 6 or 7 big blinds, I think Elliott's just going to have the decision: do I want to call or do I want to isolate and go all in myself?
Call from Elliott.
An all in from Elliott.
Elliott waking up with the 9s. This is going to be.
Oh, Phil, I'm glad I caught you. I don't know what you're getting into this weekend, but I'm hosting my monthly poker game. Yeah, the stakes, you know, they're a little smaller, but with straddles and bomb pots, I mean, it can play pretty big. I mean, put it this way, Phil, I've seen the pot reach $100, and my wife is making her nacho dip, so it's pretty good.
Hold, please. Did you say nachos?
Sign up for free today at WPTglobal.com and use bonus code LS31 and get a free welcome deposit bonus up to $1,200.
Very warm welcome back to the final table of this WPT World Championship, live from the win here in Las Vegas. We've already had our 2 early casualties. Coming back to today with 6 players. We're down to the final 4. Canada's Elliot Houdon out in front with 94 big blinds. The early eliminations being that of Colton Blomberg out for just north of a milli, and 5th place finisher Frank Finaro cashing for 1.3 million. Everyone now guaranteed 1.6 million. It's all on the table to play for, given the early drama in this final table. Kind of feel like, even with Elliot, the overwhelming chip lead, that anything could happen, Kevin. Feel like anyone can win this. Just been non-stop drama for the past 3 days. At least that's how it feels. As we dive back down into the action, and we're missing Benny. Currently, wow, Benny gonna miss a hand. Welcome back
Put this big blind.
to the TV table. Henry Kilbane alongside Kevin Rabichow calling the action for you all the way down to a winner. It's looking very likely to be that man right there. And yeah, no small blinds. Benny just not getting back in time. How do you feel about that, Kevin?
So, like, 280.
Wonder if he got a little bit sidetracked, maybe trying to find his phone, get on the stream, get some information, run to the bathroom, buy some food. Oh wait, the break's over already.
Well, well, well.
I'm a little surprised. I mean, I don't know how long they waited. I'm a little surprised
No, I wait for the guy.
to see them
I'll
play.
wait for him.
Yeah, here even Adam kind of talking about it. It is common for players to kind of say like, oh, well, we can, at least text the guy. Let's let's see if he gets back to the table. We don't need to steal his blinds.
No, for sure. I love the sportsmanship
You
being
don't have to waste your time, Bank.
Adam, but yeah, there are time banks, JC saying you don't have to waste them though. Adam's gonna take his time.
They were gonna hold it. Take my phone.
Yeah, he's good.
They said they're gonna hold it for me. Clearly they didn't.
No,
No, I know. Ray said he was gonna hold it for me till I get out.
There we go.
I did. I waited this time for you. Yeah.
So this is 10-2.
Yeah.
And he has returned. More drama, Kevin. More drama.
Again, we see Elliot getting one of those top of range hands where he gets to raise small, hoping to call a jam, but the jam doesn't come. He seems to be navigating those decisions pretty nicely so far. And I have to think that he checked the chip counts during that break, noticed that Benny is now under 30 big blinds.
Yep.
And we might be seeing some quick all-in, fold, fold, fold type of pots now that the chip distribution looks like this.
Yeah, it's really getting close to that time. Benny down to just 26 big blinds. For those of you just joining us, WPT World Championship final table coverage live from the win here in Las Vegas. Everyone guaranteed $1.6 million for their efforts. 4.14 million for first. Still a long old ways to go until we can start kind of playing a guessing game as to who's going to get heads up, as it really is a bit cagey down there at the bottom. And how about this for a modern day cooler?
20.
Blind v blind, middle pair v bottom pair, sub 10 big blinds effective.
Yeah, we're getting one of those rare post-flop spots between the 2 short stacks. JC may be deciding that he can start playing some more hands from the small blind, and goes with the limp with the bottom of his range, which makes perfect sense. And now he ends up with a hand that, I mean, honestly is extremely likely to be best, because if Adam finds a king pre-flop, he's very likely to go with it. So when it goes limp check, I think JC is going to feel really good about his pair of 5s, and likewise Adam feels pretty good about his pair of 3s.
Does check through on the 10 of spades turn, 10 million out there. JC with the check mark, and he's going to take this one down. So Really awkward spot for JC now as well. Has 2 times more than what Adam has, but he's still way behind Benny. Kind of handcuffed there in third, and with that 500k pay jump between third and fourth, likely to see him just stay out of the way of our chip leader Elliot as much as possible. Although got to give credit to JC, he has been taking his rejam spots as and when they've been presented to him. As mentioned, him and Frank Finaro were both sub 4 big blinds at one point during 9-handed play, so he's got to be thrilled to have navigated his way to 4-handed play with 1.6 million locked up. This is a fun spot. Chip leader out of the way.
Yeah, interesting to see how he navigates here. He doesn't decide. This is, you know, he might be opening all in with some of his range here for sure. Queen 10 offsuit, probably a little bit too weak to take that approach. But now Benny doesn't necessarily feel the need to avoid this confrontation as the player who covers now. I don't know if 10-6 off is going to qualify, but certainly he would have played a lot more hands in that situation than he would want to play against Elliot.
JC has closed that gap magnificently. Now just 5 bigs less than Benny, and well, don't know what the money line was coming into this final table, but I tell you this much, don't think anyone expected the drama that kicked things off. Benny just open jamming the ace-jack for 50 effective into the field, and Elliot Houdon from Canada waking up with kings just 1 seat over. It's really shifted the dynamic at this table, especially with Benny now having the chip leader on his left. Elliot just loving life, 194 million, 296 million chips in play.
Elliot really has just collected the lion's share of the chips the last 5 or 6 orbits around the table. Almost every pot. Really just with the exception of JC when he's gotten those rejams through, which is putting him, like you said, in a position where he has a real shot at getting to heads up, but Elliot really doesn't have to do much the way that he's playing. The chips are just kind of flowing in his direction.
Adam says run it for his final 7 bigs.
Definitely he's going to feel good about open jamming before having to pay the big blind ante. I don't know if that's totally on his mind when he makes this jam, but
Yeah, that's a great point. Would have had to put in about a third of his stack.
yeah, he would have been extremely committed to the next pot, being kind of the lone short stack. So I think this is kind of his situation. Not exactly taking a stand. He's got King 10 offsuit, and he gets it through easily, but I think he would have been pretty happy to go with some even weaker holdings than that.
Just to give you all an idea of just how tight it is at the bottom, if Adam doubles through Benny, they switch positions. Adam would move up to second in chips. Benny would be down at the bottom of the counts, 4 of 4. The difference between going home in 4th and making it to heads up is over $1.2 million. No space for missteps here, Kevin.
Going to be an interesting one for Adam here for sure. I think some players would consider every option basically. I think knowing how light Elliot's going to be opening on the button, having a suited king, it's a reasonable idea to just say, okay, if you've got one of your inducing hands, like let's run it. I also think calling is totally fine. He's got a suited hand. He's getting a great price.
How about that?
And
Nut flush draw for Adam, middle pair.
Speaking of modern day coolers, I have a feeling we're going to see chips fly here.
With the nut flush draw. Elliot continuing for sub 20% pot with his middle pair.
Elliot's going to be very confident he's not up against an ace here. If Adam has an ace with this chip distribution, he's just so likely to put it all in pre-flop and hope for the fold. So the ace, it's almost like that card's not on the board. The only relevant factor here is that it's a club. So
Does check jam and action back on our chip leader. He's going to get a count from the dealer.
13-6.
Jam's 13.6 million. Maybe somewhat concerned about his kicker problems.
yeah, and Adam's played tight at this final table so far. I know that's certainly giving him some pause, but he does find the correct call.
For a flush draw, he's got king of clubs, 5 of clubs, up against
See
10-3 of diamonds.
everyone on the rail taking
Elliot to the lead.
a peek over said rail to get a sweat of this one. 2 cards to come.
Straight draw.
$487,000 ladder between third and fourth. If Elliot can just hold here, be up to over 200 million in chips with 3 left. Ace of diamonds on the turn, pairing the board. Adam looking for a king or a club to stay alive. Just know the rail is going to pop off if Elliot holds here. And he does. 7 of hearts run out. Handshakes all around. And we lose Adam Adler in 4th place in this WPT World Championship. He's going to be going home with 1.6 million. And then there were 3, Kevin.
Yeah, not only 3, but as we pointed out, with JC kind of climbing the ranks during that four-handed play, it's now Elliot again with all the chips and 2 players who are very close, locked in, vying for 2nd place.
Thank you, finally, thank you.
This is the type of scenario that could go very quickly if Elliot gets the right cards, but also there's just very likely to be a lot of all-in confrontations between Elliot and
Super awesome,
somebody.
something to remember. Very fun, yeah.
Well,
Does $1
everyone
million
now
mean anything
$1
to you?
million
Or, you know, like
richer
1.3, I believe, 1.4.
on the start of
I don't know,
play.
what was
Just 2 hours into
1.6
this
million.
Nice.
final
Is that right?
table coverage.
I'm just happy that my kid got to see me play on YouTube. It's exciting. It's a fun day at the casino here, so it was nice.
What were your expectations coming into this final table?
I was hoping to get 3-handed and had a pretty fair shot to get there. Lost a flip there, and so that's it, you know? Try again next year.
What was the competition like? Do you like this type? What is your feeling on competition at this level?
Yeah, all the guys are great, man. It's super fun to play with them, and it's nice that they let amateurs come in and play the tournament just like me, so it's a good experience.
What prompted you to come out here?
I like coming to the Win, man. It's just a beautiful casino to play at, and high-stakes tournaments like this and big fields, and so it's exciting for me to get out and compete a little bit and have a nice time.
What is this? Does this change your thoughts on what you want to do with poker in the future? Like, is this a catalyst for more tournaments? What's going on?
Yeah, I might play a little bit more. I mean, I'm never going to be playing full-time or anything like that. I'll play a couple tournaments a year, and that's it. You know, stay at home mostly with my family and come play cards when I can.
How you go with that one? Copy that. Great
Cool.
job, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. They're going to take care of you. Get that
Love to hear that from Adam
Okay.
Adler, family watching at home.
37.
Even says with this 1.6 million cash that it's unlikely to be out there battling more often than he normally would. Just happy to have had his young family get to watch him play
What's
on
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought he was big
YouTube
blind.
and Twitch. Three-handed
Sorry.
play,
Sorry?
everyone now
Yep.
guaranteed $2,095,000 for their efforts.
Sorry, Benny.
Not the worst hourly, Kevin.
Heard that
Looked like some brief confusion among the players about the dead small blind on that hand. That left us with a cutoff, even though
Most
we're
likely not.
three-handed.
Yeah,
All
sorry.
back to normal now. And now still three-handed. with a big blind ante, so still just as much dead money to fight for. Certainly some of those short stack, open, all-in type opportunities are going to be even more appealing than they were before, because we're only looking at button and small blind here. And it's now 5 million every 3 hands.
So 30?
In blinds.
30.
It's a ton to play for.
That tower of chips in front of our chip leader, Elliot Hudon. 110 big blinds, 220 million at big blind 2 mil. Benny down to 20 bigs. JC nursing around 18 if I'm not mistaken.
We'll see if Elliot's still going with the any-2 strategy from the small blind. I don't think he's missed a raise yet. He does decide, oh, and he avoids a big one there. He does decide now that we're 3-handed that he doesn't want to play every hand.
That's the first time.
Which is reasonable. That's the right way to think about it, I think. Now we're getting a little more into that winner-take-all type scenario where there's going to be some fighting back for sure.
Very scary stuff.
Talk about timing, JC. With ace queen of spades in the big. First time Elliot's folded in that setup. Elliot's just all business, man, isn't he? I don't think I've heard him say a word over the last couple of days as we got down to 9-handed play. It's just all business, baby. 4.1 million for first. Never a time to be locked in and focused. This is going to be it.
Benny's still playing pretty tight in the big blind. He even looked a little bit like, not so sure if I'm supposed to be playing this tight, but we're going to let you get away with this one. And I'm sure it won't make him feel great to know that he was getting opened into by queen 6 offsuit.
JC going to come with min on the button. 4 mil, Benny glancing over Elliot. I believe with that, JC has now moved up to second in chips. If I'm not mistaken. $735,000 difference between second and third. Just want to give a massive shout out to all of the staff involved, not only from the WPT side, obviously the win as well. I know it's been a lot of unsung heroes working behind the scene for the better part of 12 months to draw up this festival and to execute on turning it into a reality. All the players for supporting the WPT as well. I feel like for the first time in a long time, Kevin, the overall feedback on poker Twitter even has been leaning towards, I don't know, are we softening up with 2022? Everyone's being positive. What's going on, you know?
It's only my big blind,
I do think that these events, this event in particular, but a lot of the events I've played lately, either with WPT or at the Win, have started gradually to show, more and more steps forward, making the player experience better, making structures better, playing around with different ideas, actively trying to solve problems, putting more money into poker. I mean, it's paying off.
I'd love to see it. Got a funny feeling that next year that 29 million might be pipped. A lot of players that missed this one. JC finds the jam, blind v blind, and well, hello.
Cool.
Let's run it to get us heads up. JC is going to need to find an ace.
Good luck.
And you came into this final table with the overwhelming chip lead. It's the all-in player at risk with 5 to come.
Wheel?
JC asking for a wheel. He did ask for the black 4 earlier on.
A little less confident than the black 4 too.
Biggest spot of both of these players' careers. Wow. Queen, Jack, 10, 2 diamonds. Top set for Benny. JC picking up an additional immediate out. King would give him Broadway. And no drama for this one. Benny turning the full house. Fist bumps on the rail. I think we just saw, was that Chris Brewer coming over to give Benny a fist bump? JC down to 2.5 bigs.
Was that for me?
Oh, yeah.
35-4.
And JC gonna have an interesting spot right out of the gate because he's gonna get dealt in on the button, knowing that he'll basically be forced all in the next hand if he folds. Always curious to see how players approach spots like that because
When did you stop calling me dad?
there's no general guidelines, you know. It's not something I've seen in the strategy books. The kind of spots that just come up like once every 5 years when you're in the biggest spot of your life. Like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna have to figure this one out on the fly. Here we are.
There's a look at the scoreboard. Elliott not involved in that hand. Still chip leader with 109 bigs. Benny flopping top set, turning a full house, blind via blind. And JC says,
did he look?
I don't think he did.
I'm not sure that he looked.
I don't think he looked.
So I think that answers my question about how he would approach the situation. He knows the 4 million's going in next hand. He says, let's run it.
Just so happens to have woken up
5.3, right? 5.3.
ace king of clubs. How about that for a blind hand, Kevin?
And it's a pretty interesting spot because, I mean, it's sort of in Benny and Elliott's best interest, both, to knock him out here, collectively.
Cool.
So not surprising to see Benny go with call, kind of allowing Elliott the opportunity to call behind. And Elliott's now faced with an interesting spot. Do I want to isolate this pot? Do I want to essentially put Benny in the blender?
273-ish. Thank you.
Action on Elliott. JC with the blind jam on the button, just so happens to have woken up with ace king of clubs. Benny
18.5.
flatting out the small, and Elliott does decide to ISO, so cards on their backs. That is rough news for Benny. Potential triple spot for JC. Does have Elliott dominated. Get back up to 9 big blinds. JC hold here. Talk about drama. Down to his final 2.5 bigs.
Jack 10.
Wow. Jack 10, 5, 2 spades, 1 club. Elliott finds the 3 outer on the flop, but still 2 cards to come. Needs to dodge the 7 outs twice.
Hands in the lead for Elliott. Here comes the turn. 4 of hearts.
Hearts on the turn. Now leaves us 1 card away
He'll be our third place finisher.
from our 4th elimination of the day.
The rear card is.
Get us heads up in this WPT World Championship. It's the Queen of Clubs.
Straight.
Okay, JC, okay.
Thank you.
All right, dude.
Making sure the dealer understands. It's like, I won this one.
Hilarious.
Thank you.
He doesn't look amused. That man right there.
And really a painful one for Benny, who called the 5 million there, gets squeezed out of the pot, and now watches his only real opponent, you know, for the second place ladder, triple up.
That felt real bad.
More than triple up.
What was that?
Just reflecting upon my poor decision.
Which?
The ace two.
Ace 2? It's fine. I don't always have queens, though.
Yeah.
Have to agree with the players at the table that referring that ace deuce open jam for 20 big blinds seems like clearly the correct play to me.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure how much you have.
Yeah,
I
Benny
tripled
even
up,
said,
so I've
it's
got
fine, man. I
14,
don't always have pocket queens
16,
there, you know.
16?
It's 18 in total, right? With the bill. Right?
No, right? 12, 14,
Oh, sorry.
16.
It was like Alan?
We're just going to ship it in from the small. Wow, JC with another spot.
Yep.
Puts the chips in the middle. Kevin, it's been non-stop action today. Lost track of how many all-ins we've had. JC looking to go back to back. Just hold here. He's been nursing a 17
Don't
big
think I
blind
want to wheel
stack.
this time.
Said he doesn't want to wheel this time. What do you want, JC? Let us know. You've been calling cards.
Ace 2, 3, 4, 5 wheel.
No. Dealer, take a day off. Nut straight for Elliot.
5 of clubs.
Running clubs needed for JC.
Feels rigged.
Asking for the 5-2, so he has a
Can I?
chance at a chop.
Good game.
Queen of spades on the turn. Gonna settle this one. Gonna lose our man JC Musa in third place. Gonna be walking home with $2,095,000 for his efforts.
Okay.
We are now heads up in this WPT World Championship, 20th anniversary World Championship, and I tell you what, Kevin, it's been drama, hand after hand, going on break.
It's okay, don't worry about
Speak
it.
with JC. When we come back, heads up for 4.1 million and the WPT Mike Sexton Championship trophy. Don't go too far. Catch you guys on the flip side of this break. Peace.
The newest real money online poker room is here, and it's called WPT Global. Join the world's largest poker network with games running 24/7 with buy-in levels to suit all bankrolls. We've got tons of cash games at all stakes and tournaments every day with huge prize pools. Sign up today with this QR code and use bonus code YT85 and we'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar.
Fewer ways for Benny to totally dominate, right? For him to, you're not going to see those situations where he's just open raising all in and all the short stacks are folding, hoping that someone picks up a monster and gets coolered, right? You're going to see a lot of min raising, probably more post flop play, and between the short stacks, they are to some extent like, I don't want to say playing for third, but there's a huge amount of incentive for them to ladder. I'm most personally interested in seeing how Elliot navigates this type of situation because a lot of players in his spot would just sit out until they get second.
Right.
And I don't think, I mean, we're already seeing him play a pot in position here with pocket sevens. I think very standard for him to just be calling an open and generally playing safe and generally trying to play a small pot here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Elliot doesn't strike me as the type of guy to kind of stay handcuffed, play cagey, and wait to get heads up. His presence at the table, not only at the unofficial final table of 9, but whenever he was at the feature table, just seemed incredibly dialed in, really focused, like wasn't giving much away, doesn't mind playing big pots. There was a big hand very early on the FT where he was second in chips and folded ace-king to a jam. But I completely understand the reasons for that. He was 2 of 9. Benny just open shoved, and there's a bunch of sub-10 big blind stacks. Kind of a similar situation here, except this time Elliot is comfortably in second and has really done a great job of distancing himself from the rest of the pack. And this one Going to go to Benny as he gets checked down. So a couple of hands going his way straight off the bat. Chip leader picking up 2 hands in a row. And just with that, JC Wilson now 5th. Here's what it is, but it's going to sting for a while, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's always disappointing to show up, especially when there's this big production, to show up to the final table and exit early, but soon enough you remember you just won 100 buy-ins in the biggest tournament of the year. It's not so bad.
WPT 20th anniversary, record-breaking WPT World Championship. Oh my word.
So I was wrong clearly about my guess at how Benny would be approaching these pre-flop spots, because here he is making a big open jam, assuming that Elliott is almost never going to have a hand strong enough to call, and then it just gets through against all the other players, and this might turn out to be a very costly misstep.
Elliott, 50 bigs, effective, makes the call, and everyone is going to be on their feet as you see the looks on all the other players' faces. The shorter stacks witnessing first v second, playing a chip lead pot, hand number 3 of this final table as Benny calls over to the rail asking for an ace. Kevin, we saw an ace folded already. Benny 5 cards away from doubling up Elliott, and more importantly, Elliott would have position on Benny and really get to play the role of table captain should he hold here with the pocket kings. Talk about career-defining hand being played out right now. Watching all the short stacks. Sweat this one on the side. 10, 7, 5. So far, so good.
I don't think so.
For Elliott's pocket kings.
I think so. You do?
Backdoor Broadway. Always a potential for Benny. Good news is Benny can't be dead on any turn.
10.
10 of diamonds changes nothing. Elliott 1 card away from being the WPT World Championship chip leader with 6 left. And he is gonna hold with the kings. His rail goes insane, Kevin. How about that? There's gotta be some 5 balls out there. There's gotta be some 1 ball sweats. Benny with the open jam.
So he's going to have to very selectively enter pots. I am curious if that's, you know, like his approach. Not everyone likes to just step back and let the chip leader do their thing. Sometimes they like to fight back as best they can, you know, open and light 4-bet or try and play the big pots and really shoot for first. But I do think that Benny's going to really tone it down in this situation.
What a start to this final table for the Canadian. Came into the unofficial final table of 9, 2 of 9, and had to deal with Benny running over the table until we got down to the final 7, and then we saw Elliott win a couple of key pots. The main one being winning a flip to get us from 7-handed play to the official final table of 6. See him nursing that freshly built tower.
Little decisions like this one here in the big blind, these are the types of ICM-related decisions that I think, you know, maybe don't get as much attention. This right here, this is already sort of an act of defiance from Benny to some extent.
Right.
Where he's saying, okay, like, yeah, you opened under the gun, but I've got 40 big blinds still in my stack. I'm not afraid to play a medium-sized pot here. I'm just going to call. I'm going to be able to withstand whatever moderate pressure that you put forward in this hand. Whereas just a couple of hands ago, I didn't comment on it, but we saw Adam Adler folding the big blind with Jack-10 offsuit to an open, right? So totally different chip scenario. When you're sitting on 15 big blinds, calling the big blind can really put your stack at risk. Here, Benny has 40 big blinds. He's saying, oh, it's okay. I can call the big blind. But I like this play from Elliott. He's putting a lot of pressure on right away. I wouldn't be shocked even to just see a gut shot fold the flop here. But let's see what Benny decides.
Yeah, I mean, straight off the bat, 5.2 million into 8.8, as you already mentioned. Really leveraging that chip lead putting Benny in a tough spot where he doesn't even get to realize the equity of that flop gut shot. So Elliott now with 163 million chips. Play out. I would not have predicted the first v second all-in inside the first orbit of play.
I think he would have gotten really good odds on that side bet before this final table started.
So Finaro had the absolute pleasure of commentating on that young man for the better part of 18 hours the other day. We're still finding the subtle jokes at 6 a.m. He's up laughing, loving life as Colton finds it on the button. Colton Blomberg down to his final 10 million chips. Just north of 6 big blinds.
And it's an interesting decision for Benny here. He obviously has to worry, if I call here, I've got the chip leader behind who can overcall or potentially 3-bet all in a situation where I never really want to put my stack at risk light. So like, how many hands do I even play here in the first place? Do I just fold and let the chip leader take care of this button jam? But he's giving it some real thought. He doesn't seem to me like the player who's trying to pass on spots, right? So it is just a decision here now. Do I want to call? Do I want to click it back to disincentivize the chip leader from coming along? Do I potentially even just want to go all in and really shut out the chip leader from this pot?
All the options available for Benny. Rough start to this final table, but does have both the live and online experience to kind of just compose himself and bring this one back. He is going to get out of the way. Disciplined laydown from Benny in the small, and Colton gonna pick up the blinds and the big blind ante. And just with that, now tied with JC Mosa at 1,960 entries, played down to the final 6 players. And I tell you what, it wasn't easy. It took more than 7 hours after the elimination of Rami Awera in 10th place to reach the final 6. It was Lucas Foster that was eliminated in 7th place around 6 a.m. So late night, I expect a lot of sleep for these guys yesterday, although with the adrenaline rushing through their blood until 6, 7 a.m. Catching up with friends, family to let them know that they had made the final table. Maybe they didn't get much sleep yesterday, Kevin.
It's definitely, it's a stressful experience to have that much attention on you. And not only that, but to probably have played 5 or 6 days consecutive leading up to that day that you're describing, right? I mean, they would have gone into that day already totally fatigued. And yeah, I think we're going to see Elliott do something here. He goes with just a call. Oh.
Frank Finaro waking up with ace 10-0 in the big blind. Sub 10.
All in.
Is gonna move his final 15.5 million in the middle. This is just an absolute disaster for Benny.
Yeah, Benny correctly assessing here that when Elliott calls here in the small blind, he's still got plenty of very strong hands in his range. King 9 suited on the lower end for sure, and he's going to have to think about this math problem for a little bit. But Benny was by no means in a spot there where he could, you know, take his price and try and enter that pot light. He has to respect Elliott's range here for sure.
Also has to respect the range of Frank in the big blind as well, moving all in against the button open and small blind flat of Elliott. Is there like a world where Frank kind of works as an aid for Elliott? Elliott kind of wants to keep these shorter stacks around for as long as possible so he can continue to just abuse the ICM situation between himself and Benny, who's currently second in chips.
I think that that's more relevant in situations where we're not dealing with 3 or 4 other short stacks already at the table. Pretty much no matter what happens in this hand, like Elliott, not only does he have a math problem, he has this kind of future game problem to dissect, right? If I win this pot, what's the stack distribution I'm creating? If I lose this pot, what's the stack distribution I'm creating? And if that losing scenario was really detrimental, then yeah, you'd certainly have a case. But he would just be in a spot where Frank's got about 20, 22 big blinds. Everyone else is still pretty short. It's a fine spot for him, and he does end up calling for that reason, I guess.
He's come to the conclusion that the math says yes, Kevin. Makes the call with the king, 9 of clubs, and we can see 60-40 for Frank Finaro's tournament life. Came into this final table 5 of 6. So I do apologize, 4 of 6. Just 13 bigs. Everyone else going to sweat this one for a potential 300K ladder. Wow. 5-3 deuce, all spades. Frank with the ace of spades in hand. Taking away a third of Elliot's outs. Drawing to 4 outs twice. 6 of hearts on the turn. Changes nothing. Frank still with the best of it. It's never easy, is it, Kevin? Always a sweat going into the biggest river card of Frank Finaro's career. 7 of diamonds rolling off, and Frank with the full double. Not only does he get the full double, Kevin, that has got to be one of the rowdiest rails I've heard in a long time. That's big. He knows how to do exactly that. Was ducking and diving, bobbing and weaving all day on, well, late hours of Sunday evening, early hours of Monday morning. I want to say him and Frank were down to sub 5 big blinds at one point, 9-handed. It's just absolutely insane. For anyone that hasn't watched that final table of 9 get down to this final table of 6, I highly recommend checking out the final 7 hours of that stream. Say the final 7 hours. Go and watch the entire 18-hour stream if you want to, but you know, it may take you a couple of days.
Just keep going over there. That'd be great. Oh, yeah. Just keep them going.
Elliot here kind of treading lightly, calling in the hijack. Again, just kind of recognizing that his hand is pretty strong, good enough to call, and he's got the chips to call.
No, thank you. Just the bottom.
6 is into the mark for Frank. Colton unable to defend his big blind, so again, first v second in chips. Going to play a hand post flop. He's still with the best of it on the 6-3 deuce mono.
And generally here, I mean, while I say Benny's going to want to err on the side of caution, that doesn't necessarily mean sacrificing the pot. It just means playing these kind of out of position situations against the chip leader with a lot of pot control, a lot of checking. He doesn't have to check fold here, although I would say it's quite likely the way it's about to go down.
4 million in the middle. Elliot firing out a bet of 2.9 once checked to, and Benny just king high, no hearts in hand. He wants to proceed. Yes, this feels like a really awkward spot to try and get this king-queen to showdown, Kevin, and yeah, king high into the mark. Elliot back up to 160 million in chips. How does this one play out now with the Frank double? So Frank up to 35 million, Benny on 60 million, Elliot playing 159.
Going to see Elliot has already opened the pot and Frank is folding. Or you're going to see that one scenario where Frank's dealt in under the gun and he's got to worry, oh, I'm opening into the chip leader if I play this hand. And he's probably just going to open fold a whole lot of hands. So I don't think we're going to see too much of Frank going post flop unless he starts getting hit with the deck.
WPT ambassador Andrew Nemi in the chat saying that Frank shouldn't have folded the 6s because he would have folded, he would have flopped top set. You're right, Andrew. Shout out to all the WPT ambassadors for all the giveaways held for this event.
And a close spot here. This is a blind versus blind confrontation. 10 million, certainly a lot of chips, but Benny understands that with a big blind ante out there, what is that, about 6.5 big blinds all in, blind versus blind, this Jack-9 could be good, or at least good enough to be worth calling.
He says good luck, so cards on their backs. Third all-in of this final table. It's another 60-40. Colton looking to convert the same way that Frank Finaro did just moments ago to get back up to 15 bigs. Benny loses this, by the way. It's going to be down to less than 30 big blinds. And, well, King, 7, Trey. Running spades for Benny, an option, as well as running straight cards. Colton could turn him dead. Ace of hearts, ace of clubs turn. Never easy, Kevin. Benny picking up a lot of outs on that 6 of spades turn. Jack, 9 or a spade needed for Benny to convert. It's a ladder 300k. Colton just looking to hold here. And he doesn't. 10 of spades on the river. And we lose Colton Blomberg in 6th place. I tell you what, Kevin. It's going to sting for a while, but after the dust has settled.
I'm just priced in with my good hand, and let's run it. So he finds a good fold there. Now JC first in, picking up a huge hand. I don't know if we're going to see him choose something other than all in. He does have the option. But he does just rip. Some players like to choose to leave a few chips behind, just in case there's like multiple all-ins ahead.
11.
And for what looks like about 6 or 7 big blinds, I think Elliot's just going to have the decision: do I want to call or do I want to isolate and go all in myself?
Elliot waking up with the 9s. This is going to be a repeat of Sunday night's final table, where the short stacks just keep on waking up with hands. JC getting it in, a 4-1 favorite to double up to over 15 bigs. I hope you're locked in, Kevin, because I've got a funny feeling the way this final table started out, we may be here for quite some time to get us down to our champion. Five to come, potential 300k ladder should Elliot convert the 19% equity. Oh, Jack 10-4, 2 diamonds.
It's fair enough.
King of diamonds?
I'll take the king of diamonds, whatever. Let's do it.
JC saying he'll take the king of diamonds, whatever, just do it, okay. Wow. From 2 to 13 outs at the turn of a card, would you believe, Kevin? Is Elliot about to convert this 30%? Going to the river. Card to come. 307k difference between 5th and 4th.
Black.
JC asking for a black 4. The river is a black 4. Talk about calling your shot.
I said black 4.
You did indeed, mate.
It was a bad turn.
Yeah, you guys got
He almost can't believe it.
He's like
Real greedy.
7. Off 7.
Real greedy.
Thank you. I actually don't have my wallet.
Not going to begrudge JC calling a black 4 for
Yeah, well, I actually have like a regular water too.
potentially 7
thank you
figures
so
in
much.
equity.
Oh, what a grab.
I'll allow it. JC Moses' best live cash $346,550.
And that was interesting from Benny just now. I am almost wondering if he picked up something on one of the players behind, because he just open folded the cutoff with ace-4 suited, and he has not exactly been playing tight hand selection from what we've seen. Even with the chip leader on his left, he's been happy to open pots. And ace-4 suited in the cutoff there, a stronger hand than some of the stuff we've seen him open. But now we see a button open, a small blind rejam, and for sure we're going to be seeing another all-in here.
And a snap call from Elliott with the min open in juice on the button. Frank doing nothing wrong, coming over the top, out of the small. Knows just how wide Elliott's going to be opening on the button. Just so happens that Frank's run into top of range. Kings again for our chip leader.
29 million. He's all in for 29 million.
This would really shake things up if Frank finds the double here. 60 million chips in the middle. Be up to just shy of 40 big blinds.
Deuce, jack, 6. Jack, 6, deuce on the flop.
Good news again, Kevin, is Frank can't be dead on the turn.
Deuce plus. Turn card. Is a king. Now a queen would be a straight.
It's like he knew.
Frank going from 3 immediate outs to 4.
Picked up 1.
Needs a queen to stay alive. Otherwise, we are down to our final 4 players in the WPT World Championship. Jack of clubs on the river seals Frank Fanaro's fate. Cashing for 1.3 million. He would be down the bottom of the counts, 4 of 4. The difference between going home in 4th and making it to heads up is over $1.2 million. No space for missteps here, Kevin.
Going to be an interesting one for Adam here for sure. I think some players would consider every option, basically. I think knowing how light Elliott's going to be opening on the button, having a suited king, it's a reasonable idea to just say, okay, if you've got one of your inducing hands, like, let's run it. I also think calling is totally fine. He's got a suited hand. He's getting a great price.
How about that? And nut flush draw for Adam, middle pair.
Speaking of modern day coolers, I have a feeling we're going to see chips fly here.
With the nut flush draw. Elliott continuing for sub 20% pot with his middle pair.
Elliott's going to be very confident he's not up against an ace here. If Adam has an ace with this chip distribution, he's just so likely to put it all in pre-flop and hope for the fold. So the ace, it's almost like that card's not on the board. The only relevant factor here is that it's a club. So
does check jam and action back on our chip leader. He's going to get a count from the dealer.
13.6.
Jams 13.6 million. Maybe somewhat concerned about his kicker problems.
yeah, and Adam's played tight at this final table so far. I know that's certainly giving him some pause, but he does find the correct call.
For a flush draw, he's got king of clubs, 5 of clubs, up against 10-3 of diamonds.
Everyone on the rail taking a peek over said rail to get a sweat of this one. 2 cards to come. $487,000 ladder between 3rd and 4th. If Elliott can just hold here, be up to over 200 million in chips with 3 left. Ace of diamonds on the turn, pairing the board. Adam looking for a king or a club to stay alive. Just know the rail is going to pop off if Elliott holds here. And he does. 7 of hearts run out. Handshakes all around. And we lose Adam Adler in 4th place in this WPT World Championship. He's going to be going home.
Making the player experience better, making structures better, playing around with different ideas, actively trying to solve problems, putting more money into poker. I mean, it's paying off.
I'd love to see it. Got a funny feeling that next year that 29 million might be pipped. A lot of players that miss this one. JC finds the jam, blind v blind, and well, hello.
Cool.
Let's run it to get us heads up. JC is going to need to find an ace.
Good luck.
And you came into this final table with the overwhelming chip lead. It's the all-in player at risk with 5 to come.
Wheel?
JC off.
It's time for a giveaway at WPT Global. Free $50 added to your account to the first 100 people who sign up. Simply follow these 3 steps. Go to WPTglobal.com/YT, make a new account with bonus code YT73, and deposit at least $1. That's it. $50 will be added to your account, but act fast. Only to the first 100 people.
Warm welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2022 WPT World Championship live from the win here in Las Vegas. And how about that pile of cash and the win trophy on the main stage? This is what we're playing for. Both players guaranteed 2.8 million for their efforts in a casual $1.3 million heads-up match between chip leader Elliot Hudon and Benny Glaser coming into this. Elliot with the chip lead, more than 3-to-1 chip lead, playing 114 bigs. Benny playing 34. We still have around about 30 minutes on the clock for this level. Big blind 2 mil. Joining me in the commentary booth for this WPT World Championship is none other than someone that is widely regarded by the poker community as one of the best heads-up, no-limit players in the world, Kevin Rabichow. Thanks for joining me, man. Just quickly, I mean, obviously not a single hand been dealt of heads-up play, but looking at this 3.5-to-1 chip lead for Elliot, any strategical adjustments we can expect straight off the fly?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the majority of what we've talked about leading up to heads up has been about ICM and prize pool. And once you get down to heads up, at least theoretically speaking, the prize pool it doesn't matter. It's no longer a factor. They're out here trying to win all the chips. If one player wins all of the chips, it's over, right? It doesn't make a difference what happens with the extra chips. Like right now, Elliot's got 225 million, but he's just imagining that it's 65 in play, whatever Benny's got in his stack, that's all that matters. And that's going to be the case until they play down to a winner. So I think you're going to see strategically a lot more passive play, which is maybe counterintuitive, I think, for some. I think some view heads up as a very aggressive game, a very wild game. And that's true in terms of hand strength. I mean, you're going to see very weak hands putting in a lot of money. But if you just think about the types of decisions they're going to be making on average, they're going to be taking more, we're going to see open limping pre-flop. We're going to see checking in the big blind. We're going to see a lot of 3 big blind pots get checked to the turn, checked to the river. Hand strengths have gone way down, and basically everyone's just navigating 100% of the deck, which is always an interesting dynamic.
Sure, so we just saw Elliot limp the button with the 6-4-0, stabbed on the king 5-2 swift fold from Benny, and well, Elliot's rail erupting over a limped pot victory for their boy Elliot, and got a funny feeling if he closes this one out, They're going to only get 10, 15, 20 times roundier than they already have been.
Interesting right away to see Benny open raising on the button. Not everyone plays a lot of open raises when they're playing short stacked heads up. There's a lot of incentive to limp on the button, but of course there's nothing wrong with raising. And Benny's also got a very good hand in the context of heads up. Certainly wants to get some value.
Ace, 8, deuce, rainbow. Benny still with the best of it. King high. 2 overcards to the 8 and deuce as well. See him continue 20%. One apiece at the start of this heads-up match. Not to needle you.
Feels like a needle's coming.
But I don't recall your rail, or Rampage's rail for that fact, in the 25K being quite as rowdy when either of you won a pot.
Well, in fairness, we were playing at 2 a.m.
That's true. That is true.
And the stage was a little smaller.
That's very true.
Don't think we had as much seating. I think we had about 12 chairs on each side of the table.
Going back to earlier on in the festival, that 25K getting 108 runners, just to really send the message as to how epic this WPT festival has been. Both players flopping top pair in this limped pot.
And right away you can see the change of pace, right? We're seeing a suited ace limp the button and then ace-7 check in the big blind. Both players kind of recognizing that the pace of play has to change. Benny doesn't really want to be all in pre-flop for 33 big blinds with this hand. Maybe with some offsuit aces, but not with this one. And it will be interesting to see if he decides to check raise this flop or check call. I think both are very viable options.
Looks like he is coming for check raise. With 6.5 million to go.
6.5.
Certainly heads up in any heads up scenario, top pair is a really strong hand. But because this went limp check pre-flop, we start with 6 million in the pot and there's over 60 million behind, over 10 to 1. So I do think we're going to see some caution. Not necessarily just going to see bet all in and snap call it off unless someone improves to 2 pair.
Yeah, the WPT Executive Tour Director, Matt Savage, calling the action for players on the live rail.
Tricky turn spot for sure. I think part of what Benny's going to be thinking about is, okay, if I bet here, I get value from all the draws that just developed on this turn card. But he also doesn't want to overplay his hand. He has no kicker that plays anymore, so he chops with every ace. He does decide just to check. And kind of a similar situation for Elliott, honestly. Like there's value to be had here, but it's thin.
19 million in the middle. Couple of straights completing on this Queen of Clubs turn. Elliott reaching for chips. This just a classic set the price on the turn to knuckle back rivers.
It does look like it for sure. Kind of challenging the idea that Benny would ever check a hand like 2 pair plus on this card. You know, if he had Jack 9, 10-8, King 10, like a lot of these hands probably just keep betting on the queen. It really does look like Benny's either giving up, maybe has a queen, maybe has a weak ace. None of these hands really check raise against this kind of bet, so he's just getting his value. And especially on this river, I'd be surprised to see anything other than a showdown here.
Jack of clubs making it official. They are going to chop this pot up at showdown unless Elliott can get Benny off of a chop after having it knuckled to him on the turn and river.
Definitely the type of play that you don't see as much these days, but some players, when they recognize, okay, you just have an ace here at best, Then just recognize it's kind of a free roll situation and just put all the chips in or put a big bet in and hope for the good result. If he identifies this as a free roll, it's a pretty cool play. It's very unlikely that Benny check raises a jack on the flop. It has to be jack 9, probably. Have to think that's what's going through his head right now, is just like, is there ever a situation where my hand's not chopping or winning here?
Does knuckle it back after taking his time. They're going to chop this one up. I like Elliott taking his time there on the river, just really thinking it through.
Totally agree. I think it's very easy to chalk up these situations as standard and just not really give it proper thought. But I mean, there's opportunity to make creative plays in spots like that if you're really confident in your read of the situation. You could just find like an all-in or something.
Sure I have a value bet or not. Making sure that if I had a value bet or not, I could figure it out.
Sounded like an honest answer.
Yeah, I was about to say, I wouldn't be giving too much information away to my table mate when we're playing for 1.3 million, but I do love the honesty of Canada's Elliott Houdon.
Can I have a water, please? Water?
See Benny choosing another open raise, and he...
Yeah, bring 10, thank you.
Again, it's not clear to me what his button strategy looks like because he's been dealt a couple of pretty good hands on the button already. Still reasonable chance he's doing plenty of limping, but... Pocket fives, definitely good enough for good enough to go for value, and even if he faced a 3-bet, just a really strong pair.
Still out in front of the fives. A bit distracted by the rail by the looks of things. Maybe some friends making it late to the final table. Elliott picking up some equity on the turn in the form of a gut shot. Pocket fives of Benny still good. Those of you just joining us, heads up for the WPT World Championship title. Both these players guaranteed 2.8 million for their efforts. Eventual champion will be walking home with $4,146,000. Be a career best score for both these players.
This hand here, a really good example, I think, of that passive seeming play that's more common in a heads-up environment. Benny deciding not to c-bet the flop just because he has showdown value. He doesn't necessarily feel there's any advantage in a heads-up raised pot. And Elliott not bluffing with his gut shot just because he wants to play cautiously, right? Like it's not that hard to make a draw. It's not that hard to have a weak hand that might bluff. But it's hard to make a strong hand, so I think wisely choosing not to just throw blind aggression Benny's way just because he's dealt a gut shot, right? He gives one up. It's okay to give up a reasonable number of these pots. It doesn't mean that he's not fighting hard enough, right?
Yeah, always easy to be an armchair critic, if you will, especially from the booth. We can see the whole cards. Yeah, Elliott just opting to wave the white flag with that 9 high. Reminds me of those poker memes that go around every now and then. Oh, I'm at bottom of range, I have to bluff. No, not for Elliott.
Going with 7 million out of position. 3.5 big blinds. Definitely looks like a good enough price for Elliott to continue these hands. He has been limping. I think he's limped every opportunity so far. So the plan for sure is to, fold some of those much weaker hands, but Queen 6 suited, absolutely good enough to call.
With Benny ISOing from the big to 7 million, we have our first inflated pot of this heads-up match. 16 million out there.
And these are really the most like telling types of situations for how these players are going to play their strategy. These are very average holdings for a situation like this. King high has plenty of value here. Queen high backdoor flush draw has plenty of value here. I'm always curious if they're going to go with kind of like the floating approach or maybe just sacrificing the pot. And it's not a crazy spot to raise either.
Benny continuing for 1/3. So we've already mentioned Elliott with the backdoor spades. In position is going to come with the float. 27 million in the middle, king high v queen high. Well, king of hearts on the turn, giving Benny top pair.
Now really the only way Elliott gets into trouble if Benny decides to check. But he is eyeing his stack.
Still a ton of value to be had, right?
Certainly, I think the concern is if we check, not only do we give flush draws a look at a free river, because, you know, just like Elliott floats here with the 3 spades on the flop, he would float with almost any 3 hearts. So you don't want to give those hands a free look, especially Benny not having a heart in his hand. Although it wouldn't shock me to see him check occasionally with a hand like this, and there's just a lot of ways Elliott can bluff when check too.
Benny firing twice just north of half pot, setting up a very natural river SPR of less than 1. No dice this time, but a nice start to this heads-up match for Benny, chipping up nicely here. Up to 87 million in chips now. Now it really feels like we've got a heads-up match on our hands. 100 big blinds plays 43.
More?
Reducing the gap quite significantly. Started off 3-1 chip deficit.
87. Thank you.
Still a long old ways to go. Casual 1.3 million heads-up match on a Tuesday evening.
So now we're seeing Benny open raise with a pretty trashy hand, you know, like bottom 20% or so. So it does seem like, at least for this stack depth, his overwhelming strategy is to open raise. Elliott correctly deducing that even Jack 5 offsuit is strong enough to defend in the big blinds. When there's a big blind ante and he's only raising the minimum, we're going to play a lot of hands in the big blind.
10-7 deuce, two-tone. Expect to see Benny continue with... I mean, is Benny just playing a 100% stabbing range on a lot of these ball textures with range?
Yeah, he certainly doesn't have to. I mean, we did even see him check behind on King 6-3, although he had some showdown value there.
Right.
But it wouldn't surprise me at all. Here he has the jack, which is actually some relevant interaction. I mean, for wide ranges, just having 3 to a straight is relevant enough interaction to maybe tip the scales for him to bet the flop there. But I think especially seeing him bet 6 million into 10, I think we'd see him check sometimes as well with weak hands.
Yeah. 3 million for Benny. 204 million for Elliott. Do apologize, 203 million for Elliott.
Benny definitely looked like he was considering there if his hand was strong enough to raise for value or if he just wants to check. Maybe a little bit concerned about the trap limp eventually coming, right? I mean, this is now 4 or 5 limps in a row. He's thinking, okay, at some point he's going to limp a strong hand. I don't necessarily want to walk into it with a raise.
We seem to be seeing 2 very different strategies being played on the button. Elliott limping with 100% of hands thus far. Benny playing more aggressively with not only top of range, but we also just saw the bottom parts of Benny's range as Elliott Turns an open-ender. There is a card in the deck, Kevin, that would give Benny a full double, one would assume, in the way this hand's played out.
Yeah, this hand that he's floated on the flop, Queen Jack, is deceptively strong on the 8-6 deuce. He's got a lot of clean top pair outs. He's got the clean nut straight draw on the 9 or the 10. And now he's getting into a situation where I have to think he wants to continue this hand, although it will be interesting to see if he decides to play it aggressively, try and maybe fold Elliott off of his like 8x thinner value bets, or if he just calls again, recognizing that he's ahead of most of the bluffs.
Elliott continuing for 80% on this 9 of diamonds turn. Putting a ton of pressure on exactly these types of holdings.
And certainly this might not look like a clear continue to Benny. I mean, the 9 is going to complete a lot of his true draws on the flop, like a lot of his gut shots. So it doesn't exactly look like a card that Elliott's going to play too aggressively, right? It doesn't look like the most advantageous spot to keep bluffing. Elliott, of course, has a perfect hand for it.
Really taking his time on this turn spot. You can understand why, of 1.3 million on the line. The entire poker world watching as well. Thinking this one through. All the options on the table for this one, Kevin?
I really do think so, although it certainly feels like, I was tempted to say that he's thought this long. He doesn't look like he wants to fold. Yeah, here comes the check raise.
Benny with the 3.5x check raise. Check called flop. Now check raising turn. 46 million in the middle. Action back on Elliott with his open ender.
And this is a nasty spot. I mean, an open ender is usually too good of a draw and heads up to fold to one raise. But there's the real chance that he's just drawing dead here. Like, he's up against 10-7 for value. He's up against 7-5 for value. There's no guarantee that his draw is live at all. And as you pointed out here, even though Benny's bluffing, half of his outs are a disaster.
Elliott makes the call, Kevin.
Looks like he sees some opportunity to maybe bluff on a diamond, maybe bluff on like a 3 even.
66 million in the middle, and it's the clean 5 of clubs.
And of course, there's the opportunity to make the best straight in a spot where Benny is going to be hard pressed not to bluff.
SPR less than 1, 66 million in the middle. Elliott with the second nuts. Surely Benny hasn't check raised turn to give up rivers as well. Though with the 4-liner on board. Wow. Kevin, this could be it. Snap call from Elliott, and we have ourselves a WPT World Championship champion.
He's made it straight, it's all over.
And just like that, you hear Matt Savage say that he's made a straight and it's all over. And just like that, Kevin Rabichow, we have ourselves our WPT World Championship champion. It is Canada's Elliott Odom coming out on top for $4,146,000 from us here in the booth. It's been an absolute pleasure. Catch you guys for the next WPT.
It's all over, my guy. Oh, Phil, I'm glad I caught you. I don't know what you're getting into this weekend, but I'm hosting my monthly poker game. Yeah, the stakes, they're a little smaller, but with straddles and bomb pots, I mean, it can play pretty big. I mean, put it this way, Phil, I've seen the pot reach $100, and my wife is making her nacho dip, so it's pretty good.
Hold, please. Did you say nachos?
Sign up for free today at WPTglobal.com and use bonus code LS31 and get a free welcome deposit bonus up to $1,200.